Ну що, будемо розпочинати? Ми можемо, так же? Да. Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, dear friends. We are happy to welcome you here. I am Victoria Day. I am a media coordinator of the Right for Protection, Right to Protection Foundation. Our today's topic is extremely important. A lot of civic organizations, a lot of representatives of authorities continue discussions on this issue, but the problem still persists and we cannot find a solution. The issue is about checkpoints of entry and exit to the non-controlled territories, and today we will discuss what the problems are experienced by those our people who have to cross these checkpoints. And what is even more important, today we would like to present here the report made by our organization Right to Protection with involvement of our partners. This is a report, what is experienced by those people who have to cross the contact line in those checkpoints. Let me introduce my interlocutors today. We are happy to welcome Ms. Noel Calhoun, Deputy Head of the Office of the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees. Also Ms. Olena Budagovska, Coordinator for Advocacy and Communications. Maria Alekseyenko, Head of the Advocacy of the Charitable Foundation Right to Protection, and Daria Dmitrenko. Noel, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm happy to be with you today to discuss the conditions at the checkpoints in Ukraine. Today in Ukraine we have a lot of important issues. Why still we have to continue discussion about those 5 checkpoints? Millions of Ukrainians never saw those checkpoints. They are located in very remote roads and highways, but nevertheless there are almost 1 million of crossing of those checkpoints, and for those who cross the demarcation line at those checkpoints, these are an important bridge. When the United Nations deliver its humanitarian aid, we always hear when why those checkpoints. This is important for those grannies who live in Verkhnya Toretsk, who have their daughter and grandchildren in non-controlled territories. Neither of those residents relocated, but the checkpoint is only one narrow bridge which can unite this broken family. Also, the same is true about Stanitsa Luhanska. For example, a Ukrainian officer in 2014 lives in a small cottage, dacha cottage, which allows to have only bed and a chair, and while his wife cannot survive without the permanent flat on the other side of border. There are a lot of people who continue to exist on both sides of the demarcation line and checkpoints. These are people who love each other. and the only connection for them is this checkpoint. This is also about human rights. Irrespectively of where people live, they have the right to enjoy their rights. People have to cross the checkpoint to register newborn babies, to get their pensions, to go to bank, etc. Those who live in non-controlled territories, they have to cross the checkpoints to enjoy their rights in Ukraine, to protect the human rights and to respect the personal links between people. It is necessary to ensure that those checkpoints are safe and decent places. We are here to share with good news. Not quite often we hear about good news, but we would like to inform you today that the situation on checkpoints had improved. Our partners contributed much effort to measure that success, and our partners today will share their report results. Also, the UN had made its missions to checkpoints to assess the progress in improvement of checkpoints. We also recommended specific steps which may improve the smooth operation of checkpoints. Some of those measures are quite simple and small to introduce good bus movement schedules or even to improve toilets, but this will simplify very much the connection through the checkpoints for wives and husbands, for grandmothers and grandchildren. Thank you, Ms. Calhoun. Quite recently, I spoke to journalists and I realized that many people who have no need to cross the checkpoint, they do not know what is the problem. Those people who are unfamiliar with this situation, they are very much impressed when they observe that at the checkpoints there are elderly people, there are mothers with babies, and they don't know where to find water, where to find toilet, etc. And I am very thankful for you attracting attention to the checkpoints, and I would like to give the floor to Maria Alekseyenko, head of the project Advocacy and Legal Aid to the IDPs. Why our organization decided to participate in assessment report and in assessment mission. We have been existent with the support of the High Commissioner on refugees, UN High Commissioner on Refugees. We have been working with the Czech points since 2016. Noel mentioned that each month more than 1,200,000 crossings through the checkpoints are registered, and in majority these are elderly people for whom it's difficult to adapt to the surrounding circumstances. When they have problems, they don't know whom to ask for help. That's why our team is present on the checkpoint to provide information and legal aid. From January 6th year, we have delivered more than 10,000 of such legal consultations for people who cross the checkpoints. For 2 years in a row now, we carry out systemic assessments with the assistance of those people who cross the checkpoints. We try to understand their problems. We try to understand how much time they have to spend in lines at the checkpoint, to understand the whole time needed for crossing the checkpoint. We try to understand who are those people who are who need to cross the checkpoint on monthly basis, on quarterly basis. During those 2 years, we have questioned more than 55,000 people. All that collected information which we collect during our questionnaires, surveys, and consultations, allows us to assess logistics, humanitarian issues, transportation problems. Since we are present in that cross points for more than 2 years, we can clearly see the improvements and how the situation is getting better. We saw the first temporary arrangements there, and we can compare it with today's more permanent arrangements. And we try to resolve the existing problems at our level. I forgot to show my presentation. For example, such a problem, such very small, minor problem as benches. Quite often authorities are unable to predict in what exact location people may need the benches for sitting. Also, it's very important to put a cooler with water in a place where everybody is able to see it. In Stanitsa Luganska cross checkpoint, the only needed improvement was to open a gate and allow the ambulance car to enter the territory and deliver necessary aid. Sometimes it was necessary to organize the waste management in the checkpoints territory. More than 15% of applications are related to the problem of crossing the border. For example, people have received the pass, but the pass has not come to force yet, or the person started to cross the checkpoint, but the pass had expired by that time, and in case of such problems, it is necessary to have special people at the checkpoint who are able to extend, for example, the path validity, etc. While in the past, all that infrastructure of checkpoints was supported by international money from the funds of international organizations, while during the last 2 years, all the infrastructure was repaired and equipped on the account of local regional administrations from Lugansk and Donetsk regions. Last year, we observed how people faded during a day at the checkpoint because of very hot weather, and there were long lines, and people simply faded, up to 10 cases per day. Daria Dmitrenko will speak in her turn, but I would like to say that in result of our survey, we came to conclusion that should be one unilateral state structure responsible for the checkpoints. As of today, we have multiple state structures which are responsible for the checkpoints. We have to establish clear legal framework for the operation of checkpoints. This will make life easier for those people who work on the checkpoints and who cross it. Thank you. Today, Daria will present the results of the monitoring, which is the result of work of many people. This also includes data from 5 operational checkpoints as of today. This report could be found in the internet in free access, and you will be able to see it in even in hard copy. Thank you, colleagues. Before starting my presentation of the report itself, I would like to thank to our partners. The report was produced on the framework of a project on delivery of multiple aid to suffering population. We produce it together with the UN Refugee Agency and UNIDA, and producing a report, we compared our data against the previous period data. And now about the report itself, and the problems were slightly described by Maria. The central topic of this report is a comprehensive equipment and reconstruction of the checkpoints, which started in August 2018. Our objective was to assess how that novelties improved the passage of checkpoints, and how this improved the life of dozens of thousands of people who are crossing the checkpoints. What we have observed, we looked at the context, at those conditions which existed at the checkpoints from the very beginning. Then we assessed the legal base, and then we assessed the current status.
How we did it. We've analyzed, first of all, normative basis. It is worth noting that there was a lot of work. The checkpoints exist since 2015, but no law has the provisions about their legal status, why they exist, who is responsible, how should they be financed, and also about the money, about the equipment and service provision and guarantees of human rights. No law envisages all this. So our analytical work on this research included endless mail to officials who are involved in this process, to the structures, law enforcement bodies who work at checkpoints and carry out procedures and border service, fiscal service, national police, security service of Ukraine, Ministry on Temporarily Occupied Territories, and Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast state administrations, of course. A big section is dedicated to the analysis based on the mail and searching for answers. Who should do this? Who should be responsible for setting of checkpoints and their service? And, for example, about broadening of the roads or setting a bus stop, or to provide logistical centers that are not now in operation, and there are no proper conditions for waiting. And also there was a field stage of research. We assessed the situation with the use of our monitors, and we described the conditions at each checkpoint, and we studied the opinion of people who cross at these checkpoints. And these checkpoints were equipped in 2018. This was Marinka and Stanitsa Luganska. So about the stages in September 2017, we heard from the government the declaration that before checkpoints are equipped and services are provided, systemic approach should be used to these processes, and the Prime Minister provided the protocol of the Cabinet of Ministers, and in a year, in September 2018, Mariinka and Stanitsa Luganska checkpoints were open. So checkpoints didn't change their place or number. They remain in the same sector, but the load increased. We see the statistics of crossings through checkpoints, and conditions should be improved, expanded, premises should be provided, and new places of employment should be provided. The working places should be equipped to carry out passport control faster, and waiting places should be set, more water should be provided. And we ended our research in April this year, but the works continued in Mayorsk, Novotroitsk, and Gnutovo. We observed the situation, and we may reach preliminary conclusion, and they are positive concerning this checkpoints. About checkpoints, so there is a standard procedure how it is done. In Lugansk Oblast it is a little bit different. We know that we have only Stanitsa Luganska checkpoint there. There are also so this is a narrow crossing. There is a bridge, and there is no opportunity to set proper terminals, as we see in Donetsk Oblast. Also, there is no one coordination body or structure. Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, they resolve the issue of checkpoints separately, and this function belongs to oblast administrations. And yes, they contribute a lot, and they do it at their own discretion, and even in the law on civil and military administration, there is no proper legal basis how to allocate land, how to resolve administrative issues, and how to bring communications there. About the survey, we surveyed 126 respondents who regularly cross checkpoints at Mariinka and Stanitsa Luganska after they were reconstructed. How we chose these people? These were respondents who travel regularly. They can compare. They saw these checkpoints before reconstruction. And what about the results? We asked 3 simple questions, and we got answers for these questions. First of all, on the whole, we asked to assess changes, whether they happened, whether they were positive. 87% of those who were surveyed at both checkpoints, they assessed these changes positively. As you see on the graph, small number believed that changes didn't influence the process of crossing or assessed them negatively. One more question, whether the changes influenced the speed of crossing, because one of the aims was to speed up the process to create more capability to the checkpoint. 64% of those who were surveyed, they believed that the speed increased, and this is confirmed also by the reports that we prepare regularly based on the data collected at checkpoints starting 2017. We see that the majority of respondents provide information that they now spend less time for crossing. Also, one more important question is feeling of safety. So the infrastructure that was improved, whether people feel more safe in the conditions. And here you may see that answers are mostly positive. On the whole, 83% said that positive changes happened. About assessment of the conditions and monitoring and checkpoints carried out by our monitors in February till April 2019. This is the biggest part of this document. What can we take from there? So we provide a scheme of each checkpoint. We describe all humanitarian infrastructure there, and at what level the needs are satisfied, whether checkpoints are accessible, can disabled people on wheelchairs use it, or parents with young children. Do they have shelters? Do they have warnings? Do they have quality shelters? Can they provide facilities to everyone in case of unsafe situation? Also, sanitary, of water, access to healthcare and banking services. Each checkpoint has its own peculiarities, its bottlenecks, and we always remember that the most problematic situation is in Stanitsa Luganska because there is a broken bridge. It is really difficult to cross there, especially for elderly people, and this is the majority of those who cross there. And this is a painful issue. Also, wheelchairs, they are lacking for those who cannot cross on foot. As I've said, also access to bank services. Bank is a monopolist. This only bank who provides for pensioners who are IDPs. It also tries to make its services more accessible at checkpoints because many people cross only to get bank services, to get cash, to undergo physical identification, and we have problems in this. Also, ambulance and healthcare services now at checkpoints. There are no doctors from state medical services. Only representatives of humanitarian organizations may provide first aid. Then you should go to ambulance doctors, but ambulance at Gnutovo, for example, they do not go there at all. So there is a need to use military ambulance to bring people to some town, to bring people to hospital, and this is time, and it is really dangerous. And we see the weather we are having now, and we forecast that the number of cases will increase when people need to get medical assistance at checkpoints. Also about conclusions. As Maria said, we see important things that are really needed to identify legal status of checkpoints and the order of financing from the state budget. We believe that this should not be a burden to regional administrations. This should be done at the central level to identify state body of structure that will be responsible for them. Also about the transport, these are our recommendations about several topics that we see as the most painful at checkpoints. The system of transport support for checkpoints, and the system is chaotic now, and it is a big financial burden for people. People spend a lot of money to get to the closest town settlement. It is too costly for them. And for example, bus stops, tariffs, routes, information, when the next bus comes and where it goes. And our monitors and people checkpoint, they provide this information because there is no such information there. So also there should be a competitive market for transport operators because there are unlicensed operators who set high prices at their services. And also about checkpoints, and we see that we have positive results there, but still there are some gaps. From the very start, maybe we should have had more consultations, more support of international humanitarian organizations and local organizations who know the methodology of the survey about the needs. And for example, the situation with water at Marienka checkpoint calculations for the pump were not right, and there is lack of technical water, and additional expenses are needed because of it. Also, the monitoring of the results, whether these changes were positive, and what gaps we still have. About security, only Stanitsa Luganska, as we know, they are not equipped with the sound warning system. Shelters are being created now, but they lack capacity, they lack stocks for a big number of people. There is no information about how to find shelter, how to go there, and what to do in case of danger. I thank you very much for attention. Once again, I would like to say that we have real big positive changes, and we hope that those conclusions and recommendations we provided due to this research will help state bodies and our partners to implement efficient changes in the fast way. Also, I would like to add several aspects. First, together with our colleagues, we would like to thank our monitors who worked at checkpoints, who provide daily help to people, who do everything possible in order to resolve the issues that emerge there, and who provide efficient information about positive changes and about the situation on site. We get information really quickly. And recently, together with our partners, we created video instructions for people to understand what to be ready for, what to have with you in order to speed up the procedure and to avoid unpleasant situations. This will be broadcast at checkpoints and on social media, and you may find this information and provide it to your close ones and relatives. I would like to give the floor to one more. Our partner, Olena Budagovska, coordinator for advocacy and communications, people in need.
I would like to add a couple of words. Our organization, People in Need, is present in Ukraine since 2014, which allowed us to provide humanitarian aid since the beginning of the conflict in August 2014, and we continue to deliver aid on both sides of demarcation line in Donetsk Oblast, in Luhansk Oblast, and since 2016 we had introduced the sustainable development programs in 2016. We strengthen our connections with the World Doctors and the Forum in Ukraine this year. Helpage joined also us, and we jointly implement the project which is called Access, and on the framework of this project we provide humanitarian aid to the people on both sides of the conflict. We do not work on the checkpoints, but we have a lot of human stories. These are stories of people who live alone the contact line, or who live on both sides of non-controlled and controlled territories. Many family connections are ruined because of the checkpoints, because we have 500 lone contact line medical services, educational services are broken. Children sometimes have to cross the contact line on bicycles because they want to go to school. In Verkhnya Taretska, we had to equip the bicycle stand for parking those bicycles. Of course, for children, it's dangerous. In one of those pictures, you can see a miner from Donetsk. He is 78 now. They had to fly from non-controlled territory and to go to the controlled territory, but they have their property, they have children, they have connections in the non-controlled territory. But at the age of 78, it's not so easy to cross the checkpoint, and crossing the checkpoint on foot is not very convenient. Also, I would like to give the floor to those people who, on the framework of our project, made this video. We would like to show you these people. We wanted to draw your attention to the fact that people live there, that people don't want to quit from their native houses, and that they remain alive.
Улица хорошая, живая, вся разбитая. Некоторые у нас держат коров, люди. Надо ж как-то жить. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
Можно к вам несколько вопросов задать?
Конечно, можно. Детки мои живут очень далеко. Встречаюсь полгода один раз. Поездка очень тяжелая, поездка невыносимая. Такие сплошные проверки, что не доведи Господь. Живу одна. Вот. Дом мой самый крайний. Дальше нет, жители все выехали.
Здесь жила семья 4 человек, выстроили дом, думали, жить будут, 2 деток. Пришлось уезжать. Этот мужчина жил в своем доме, имел кров над головой. В один день он лишился всего. Пролетела пуля и подожгла дом. Выскочил, в чем был. Вот эта кухонька осталась в живых. Освещать ничего не успел. Ну, кошечка вот. Тоже успел схватить кошечку.
После сильного обстрела не выдерживают даже бетонные столбы, не говоря уже о жителях, которые переносят это все на своем здоровье. Сильно разрушены крыши домов. Вот снова где-то слышатся далекие выстрелы. Не знаешь в любую минуту, чего можно ожидать.
Во двор, пойдем. Тут ни хера нет. разбито, все деревья, все окна, кухня разбита, все. Так было все аккуратно, теперь пластиком было все. Ой.
Скажите, вы сейчас приехали, куда вы ездили? Я вижу, у вас тут сумка.
Ездил в магазин за хлебушком. Вот. Жена у меня не может, она инвалид первой группы. Ходить не может, она лежачая вообще. Так что я сам скупляюсь, сам готовлю, ухаживаю.
Жители собрались для получения продуктовых наборов. Сегодня привезли зерно для жителей Бахмутки. Люди собрались, чтобы получить для курей зерно. Я вижу, тут стоит бочка. Это, наверное, вам воду привозят?
Да, потому как от взрыва у нас на поселке во всех колодцах пропала вода. Нам привозят воду с Углегорки, с Новолуганки. Так что спасибо им, людям, которые беспокоятся за нас, дают нам возможность выжить.
Скажите, Лидия Степановна, что бы вы хотели пожелать тем людям, которые живут очень далеко от линии разграничения, и все наши беды почти, считай, не знают?
То, что люди не знают, они даже почти нам и не верят, что мы живем в такой ситуации. И вот люди нам почти не сочувствуют. Вообще. Они живут, они этого никогда не видят. Этих взрывов, сколько там домов у нас полетело, 15, 14, 15, вот 16. Очень много.
Вот и автобус. Народ дождался. Бахмут ехать, кому в больнице. Все радуются, что автобус приехал. У нас только последняя радость, что автобус. Нету автобуса, все. Поехал народ в Бахмут. Все довольны, все влезли.
Що ж, колеги, дякуємо.
Thank you for participation in our today's event. Thank you for the information, and let us hope that the information will change for the better. We understand that the problems on checkpoints, they do not start in the checkpoints and does not finish on the checkpoints, and that those people who are in hard life conditions, that they will see happy solution of their problem. Thank you.
Чи є запитання до...
Do you have questions to the speakers? Since there are no questions, we would like to thank to our speakers and finish our briefing.